Another solid episode of 30 Coins. This is Pulp Mythos. I'm Brian here with Larry and Spencer, and we're going to be discussing 30 Coins, episode 4, titled Memories. Could have been called Answers, because they gave us a lot of answers in this episode. I was thinking that as we were watching it. Great episode, man. This show, I love the pacing. I love the characters. I love the drama. Just the storytelling in general. I mean, to me, this show is doing what I want a show to do.
Couldn't agree more, honestly. It's one of those things where, and I didn't expect so many answers this early in the show, and I certainly didn't expect to get any backstory that involved, the evil bishops or cardinals that we were seeing earlier. They really dove into a lot, and we went a lot farther into the priest, his background than I thought we were going to for a while.
Yeah, I did. Every aspect of this, like me and Brian talked prior to getting on, everything in this is how you, like you said, Brian, tell a story. When you go from one aspect to another without explaining too much to basically clear everything up and disinterest me, but give me enough to not leave me questioning everything. They went from, talking about the Fabio Santoro and like all these things. The way it was structured is how I feel that every show with a little bit of mystery should be structured. This was brilliantly done, but still left you with that cliffhanger at the end where you're excited about the next week. Whereas some of the other shows we're watching, like I could give two shits about the following week. Like I'm not super looking forward to it.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and it answered a lot of questions and answered a lot of the big questions, but yet if the next couple of weeks go as expected, it's going to open up a new series of questions. Like you're wondering how is he going to get out of this whole situation? What's the deeper goal behind this? Like we still don't know the power of those coins. Like what can they do once you have all 30 of those coins?
Exactly. I mean, that's sort of the mystery. Even he was curious himself. Do you know about the 30 coins? It's said, what? And my assumption is that Manuel, is purposefully going to infiltrate this organization and see where it leads him. That's my guess based on the previews for next week's episode. But yeah, we get our villain. We get a name, we get a backstory, we get an understanding of sort of who he is, what he's about, why he's sort of doing the things he's doing. Fabio Santoro, he was a fellow priest with Manuel, and they both question things. These were two guys that were in the priesthood, but they didn't always like following the rules. And there's an amazing scene where we get a lot of answers about Manuel, in my opinion, as far as what kind of person he is. Because he's like, look, I'm down for this. I'm with the cause. I'm a priest and all this stuff. But one has to question if we've been doing this for thousands of years and we haven't made a lot of progress. In fact, you could say we've gone the opposite direction. And he's just simply asked, why not try something different? And he's referring to an exorcism. And he's like, why not listen and gather information? Don't you need to know who your enemy is? And I thought that was a fantastic scene.
Yeah, I do too, because, you talk about intel and everything else. The reason military does that kind of stuff is because you have to know what to expect from your enemy. That's how you do covert ops and everything else. And for the way that they've always done it is just to expel the evil force, but they don't know why it's possessing somebody. They don't know where it's coming from. They don't understand any of the dynamics of why the evil is doing this. And that's what he wants to know. He wants to know every aspect of why and how. And they're just basically showing them, well, this is how you get rid of it. But clearly it doesn't get rid of it. It just basically pushes it aside and spreads it to somebody else. It doesn't ever get rid of it.
Well, yeah, and it's like that conversation alone. Also, it's good because it brings up important questions about, well, not just just in general the lore behind the show and what they're dealing with, and doesn't really 100% spell out who was right in that scenario, because he may be right that it's like, oh, you can't talk to these things, you can't, talking to them will only lead to ruin. That's the wrong attitude to have, but it's like you're not giving them a good reason for it. There's no true example of what they're saying. And now Father Manuel, he has a personal example with his friend there about, okay, maybe this is why we shouldn't talk to them. But to some degree, like you're saying, Spencer, they do need intel. They need that intel, but maybe they can't 100% rely on it, on the methods he thought previously, because like his friend was spelling out, he led him astray via his words, and now we have this whole other faction within the church that seems dedicated to evil.
And Fabio seemed to, he was also in that, like you said, he wanted knowledge too, but he clearly wanted more than just knowledge. And the whole going through the door, I think, was sort of that line in the sand, because Manuel is sort of like, look, I'm here to figure out what's going on, but that's a whole other situation right there going through that door. And Fabio it's sort of the idea of thirst for knowledge and the danger of it. I mean, they're playing with a lot of interesting ideas here. And I like when Manuel says, he's like, because the argument is evil is necessary, and he's like, yeah, I get all that, but we still have free will. We choose our role. And that's sort of one of the final things he says to Fabio before he enters this door. Does anybody, the number of the storage locker room was 188. I didn't know if 188, do you guys know if that number has any significance? I didn't take time to look it up. I was just curious. Maybe it has nothing, but I thought it was, these big ass numbers on the back wall.
Like it doesn't, as far as I know.
In America, 187 is
I thought, he goes through the door and it says say 187 in that room, the one he entered, but I didn't know if 188 had any importance, or if it was just that's the room they shot that in.
I don't know enough about the Bible and the Catholic religion to say yay or nay.
But yeah, as far as I know, I've never heard of it having any significance. I mean, I guess leave it in the comments if you know otherwise, because it's like I don't recall any references to the number 188 in the Bible. Like though I feel like I'm missing a fairly significant one.
I just looked it up. Hold on.
Okay.
I can't let shit go.
Well, yeah. As I'm saying it, I was like, that feels significant somehow.
I just put religious significance of 188. And it says the angel number 188 symbolizes manifesting wealth and abundance through the power of positive thoughts and affirmations. The angels are encouraging you to maintain your positive attitude and expectations. They are also reminding you to listen to your inner guidance and intuition.
Is that a horoscope thing, or is that like a...
It just says angel number 188. I have no idea what any of that means. But
I don't know.
I mean, so, it's all over the place, but I don't.
Okay. Cool.
But I don't know what the real number is. Like, it could be like some. I don't know.
The going to. I loved all the settings. In the comments last week, I had asked a lot of questions like, "Is that a real, church? Is this, the village? Is everything real? What's a set? What's not?" And it was pointed out to us that a lot of that's all real stuff. Now, whenever there's some crazy effect shots and things are damaged, those are sets built. But no, those structures are real place. That's a real place. Those are real buildings. And I love the traveling in this episode. There's so many different places, and I'm like, wow, I love the. It feels big, the show feels really big. It has that feeling because he's going to these places, and I just like the way they incorporate that.
Yeah, everything.
It is great. I mean, the fact that they're using real buildings, real areas, places that are factually there. It's cool because if you ever went to Europe or if you ever went on a trip and were super into this show, it I think it'd be kind of cool to go to. I would like it. I've never been to. I've been all over Germany. There's a couple other countries I've been to, but I've never seen anything like that, and that would be something that I would enjoy seeing. I don't know if I'd like to see, Satan incarnate and the big baby spider and people burning, a veterinary hospital, but the rest of it seems really cool.
Yeah, and there's a lot of history there, and that's I think the sort of thing we've mentioned before. Whenever we talk about this, whenever we personally talked about that type of architecture in other countries and things that you often see when you see images like that, you see a lot of history represented. You see a lot of old medieval art, like architecture that's even medieval, and you can tell that well, you just get a sense that other eras occurred, whereas here in the United States, everything, there's a lack of that here. We don't have any like old cathedrals or anything that, well, at least not as old as what you see in this series.
Yeah, there's a few structures here and there that are a little old, but yeah, nothing like what you see throughout Europe and other parts of the world. And yeah, it's real. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say almost nothing that gives you a feel of like another place in time, really.
Yeah.
For them, like it just.
Yeah, I agree. Elena, Paco, this whole romance, I love it. It's funny because Paco clearly is in love with her. She's clearly got a thing for him. She is trying to figure out what happened to her husband who disappeared a couple years ago. She's fed up with the town and everything that's happened, and the fact that everybody burned down her place of business, and so she's gonna run off, and she was heading to France, and she was gonna work for this rich guy she knows, and but Paco straight up professes his love for her. In that one scene before she leaves, he's basically like, "Look, I want you here," and his wife is well aware of this too. There's a couple scenes with her. It's fun. It is fun that we have this sort of love triangle situation in the middle of this show, and I think they're doing a pretty good job with it.
Dude, the fight in the slaughterhouse was the most real depiction of a couple arguing that I've ever seen play in my entire life. The back and forth when he kept being like, what's wrong? And then she starts to tell him, and he's like, fine, I don't really want to hear it. So he like turns around. It made me laugh so fucking hard. And the show is so serious for me to start laughing during that. I don't know. I just couldn't stop giggling because it was 1,000% a real like couple fight.
Well, yeah, and it was very much that whole, like you said, the back and forth where she doesn't want to talk about it, and then he starts mentioning things offhand, and then she starts going in it, and now he doesn't want to talk about it. Like back first she didn't want to, and then he didn't want to, and then one of them's just storming off. So yeah, it felt very real, honestly, and the show does a good job with that kind of thing. Anyway, showing you these relationships, be it a relationship like theirs or friendships and things. Like we saw this episode with the priest. Because just the way they explore these things kind of makes you get enough that you care about these characters and their personal conflicts. Almost as much as the supernatural things that are happening.
Well, and that's what I was just getting ready to say too. You mentioned a supernatural aspect. For it to feel so real and grounded, but to have such an unreal supernatural element to the show is crazy, because then it makes all of those elements feel more real and plausible, which makes the show that much better even.
Yeah, the friendship that is established, I believe Sandro was the other priest who was part of that little crew of Manuel and Fabio, and he gets burned really badly, and then we find out he's hiding in a prison, and Manuel goes to see him, and I love all the dialogue about he's hiding in the prison from this evil because of all the suffering in the prison shields him from those guys, and then he basically tells Manuel, "You need to go to a war zone. That's the only place you could go to there's enough suffering that sort of would disguise, help you hide." But all the scenes between those two, and just the little touches, the boxing match, boxing match was great, and him lifting up his little like rosary or cross or whatever, and Manuel kisses it. It's just like, oh, it's got us through times. They're in I don't know, 5 or 6 different scenes together, between having lunch and going and having the experience in the storage locker 188 and all that stuff. But by the end of the episode, you're right. I'm like, man, this feels like these two have long time buddies, and I'm sort of invested in this friendship, and I want to see this character return, at another point.
Yeah, when you mentioned like all the flashbacks with them, we talk about building real relationships and establishing a storyline. It does a great job with that, and it does a great job wanting you to know more about the characters. Whereas in some of the other stuff that we're watching, you don't care what happens to the character, you don't give a shit, because they haven't established any kind of connection. They haven't established any kind of connection to the story. And this couldn't be further from the opposite of that. They do such a great job incorporating each character's importance into the storyline, to where you're still interested in what they have to hold, as far as future, endeavors and storylines go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's been the thing. There have been throwaway characters that I've wanted to see more. Well, I just want to explore more of this town in general, and not just the town, but a lot of the other characters. And it seems like from what we saw in the trailer, we're gonna get more of that. Like, how is there a witch in this town? How and why?
Yeah.
Is there this crazy powerful witch in this town, and she seems to be allied with with the evil bishops and whatnot. So it's like, whoa, how did that alliance happen?
Well, yet again, I said it last week, and I'll say it again. People need to take Antonio seriously, because he's just laying facts out there. He's like, hey, yeah, there's this old woman who eats roaches, and he says the devil is inside her. And then he talks about how Elena's husband is alive. Now, I don't know if he was referring to he is alive out somewhere, or if he was referring to the event that occurs at the end. Not completely sure. And then he tells Elena, not Elena, he tells Murchie, is that how you say it? Paco's wife. He's like, yeah, Paco's in love with Elena. He's just like, that. It is what it is. But yeah, Antonio, and then he talks about the voices in his head. Now, the priest, I did not write his name down, but the priest that Manuel goes to see to try and have a meeting with the Pope, that guy also was saying, I guess he hears stuff in his head. So I think there's, I don't know, we'll call them seers, whatever you want to call them. It seems like there are some people that just sort of have an ability to, I don't know, something guides them. They know things that they shouldn't know. And we've now sort of have 2 examples of that.
Well, yeah, with the priest that Manuel talked to, was it like, yeah, he seems like he can see things, but as far as the kid in town, what's his name again?
Antonio,
yes, that's right. Yeah, as far as Antonio, like, my question is that a natural ability that Antonio has, or is that him being affected by one of those relics or something? And it may well be that he's being affected by one of those relics, that's being used by the priest, or it may just be because we see that he collects things from the church, and it may be something that he brought home with him.
He was fucking drinking from that goblet.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, exactly. He's drinking from let me see, what is it? Indiana Jones. I'm trying to think. Like, he may be drinking from, like, well, not Indiana Jones, but I guess maybe
No, that was
Arthurian legend, the Holy Grail. Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
He might just be drinking from the Holy Grail.
That'd be great if that's what that was. You're right. He does have a lot of artifacts, and remember, there's the scene where, going back to the first episode, when Manuel first gets there, and he's just like, "Hey, there's all this cool stuff in this church." He shows him the secret passage, and he's been in that. And remember his little cave that he lives in. He has like everything in there is from the church. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that's something that's affected because of that, or if he's attracted to all that stuff because voices in his head. I have no idea, but he's been an interesting character.
It made me think too, because remember when um, they were making the connections that all these bad things that happened to, Jesus and everything were drawing a power. So, the coins, the ultimate betrayal. Antonio is harboring an awful lot of artifacts too. I think that those may be to protect him from whatever's going on. You talk about him being able to hear voices and all this. Uh, Maybe he is surrounding himself with all these more positive artifacts to try and counter some of the negative ones that are within the town or within I don't know, the bad bishops hold, and they're trying to maybe use him and control him, and that is his way of trying to counteract that.
Yeah, and I think you're onto something because we haven't, at least not directly or to our knowledge, we haven't seen what any of the good relics can do. But they have established that there are good relics, like the sponge and everything else that they were showing in the church. Like, so that may be what he's doing. Like, he's protecting himself using these things, or he's unknowingly protecting himself even.
Yeah, that very possible. The he gets a meeting with Manuel gets a meeting with the Pope at the end, and apparently the Pope is aligned with Fabio. Now, do you think the Pope is aware of what Fabio is doing, or not aware? I wasn't completely clear on that at the end. I wasn't 100% sure, and in the preview, I don't recall seeing the Pope in any of those scenes, but I'm not sure. What do you guys think?
I think they were trying to make it appear as though he didn't know, but he looked like such an arrogant dickhead that it made me feel he was like in on it. But because like every time, and I'm not Catholic, I don't go to any mass or anything, but I've seen the Pope on TV a lot, like John Paul. Like there's been several that you see on TV, and none of them look like assholes like that. They all seem to be pretty.
Do you think that that's part of the consideration? Like, that guy looks like an asshole.
I'd imagine that was probably one of the casting requirements. Like, all right, read this line, but read it as though you're a giant asshole. All right, you got the job, because he definitely looks like one. But I don't know if he's in on it or if he's aware of Fabio's true intent. And I'd imagine just by what you said, he's not. But I don't know.
I didn't pick that up from him when I saw the character, but I was like, this guy's the Pope. He didn't give off the feeling of a Pope, honestly. But it's the sort of thing. It was a scene that was very interesting because I was like, okay, here's some hope, and then they snatch that away from you because it's like, oh, he's talking to the Pope. The Pope's going to know what to do. You know, and he's going to connect them to these priests, and we're finally going to even the odds a little bit, and and then we had the all is lost moment when he revealed who his most trusted guy is, which, and I know we're supposed to be led to believe this, or this is where the audience is being led that, in this particular scenario, the Pope just doesn't know what his what they're up to.
He's like Yoda. Yoda was blind, blind to the dark side. He didn't realize the Sith Lord was right there.
Well, yeah, and the thing is, they make it clear that as Pope, he's privy to a lot of this knowledge. He probably, knows about the relics and everything. Well, he does know about the relics and everything. So yeah, my guess is perhaps they have a relic that is like, which is why I'm glad you brought the whole Sith Lord thing. Because they may well have a relic that's just sort of hiding the evil that they do from him. So he has no idea. He thinks he's, dealing with legitimate Catholic priests, and he's dealing with these like with this sort of anti-church.
Well, I'm also curious. They've showed Carmen at the beginning of the series, who fell back into being Carmen a couple times, but then went back to being whatever, was possessing her. Remember when Fabio was out on the street and he didn't, it, it appeared as though he didn't know who, you know, Manuel was. But like shortly after that, it felt he was like trying to trick him. Like he was just like, "Oh, I don't remember you. Who are you? You got me mistaken," and then tried to run away. But what if whatever attached to Manuel legitimately doesn't know who that is? And then there's only like parts of Fabio that remember him. So I don't. That whole line where he's like, "I don't know who you are." I'm not 100% sure that Fabio all the time is an evil being, just like Carmen wasn't an evil being the whole time. I think Fabio really wanted knowledge and power, but I'm not sure that he signed up to be the devil's plaything. So I don't know.
I think it's legit just because of the way he hightailed it. I think that was a deception just to make him feel awkward so that he could lose him. Where he's like, "Oh no, you've made a mistake," and I think this is him perhaps early in his career after he's switched alliances and everything, and and we saw there were a few people in that car and everything, and so he's at that point in time he probably, or he may not have been the guy in charge and everything, but he was probably still acquiring power, and he didn't want he didn't want Manuel to mess up everything for him, so he he lied to him. Otherwise, he probably wouldn't have even cared because he clearly wants him to be a part of whatever this thing is that he's doing, because as his friend mentions, he's like, if he wanted you dead, he could have killed you at any point he wanted. So
I don't disagree that he could have been just trying to distract him while he sprinted away. The only reason I think that it may be possible that he's not 100%, Fabio, he's whatever this being is we've seen it in several different episodes, like the beginning, when the guy went to steal the coin, or when the guy ripped the guy's throat out and stole a coin, when the guy walked into the bank and shot everybody and stole the coin. They came back in to the car, had a conversation, and then were kind of the spell was lifted. So I don't. That's the only reason why I think it may be something more like that, as opposed to him just being super evil, which is still 100% a possibility. He seemed very dead set on gaining power and knowledge. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I just think with some of the other things that they've showed us throughout this season, that it could be that it's not 100% Fabio. It could be whatever it is that's attached to him.
Well, yeah, and that could be the sort of thing too. Like he could well be possessed in some way, or it could be the situation where it's like, no, he's evil. He fully bought into the philosophy and everything that he was going over with what's his name, or he could have been tricked. He could have been played, and like you said, he could they could have a relic that's corrupting his mind or controlling him, because good point. They do have we did see that they have relics that do that very easily. They did it to an entire town last episode, yeah. So that there is some merit to that.
I have to give a quick shout out to Spencer for referencing Danzig with Devil's Plaything. Danzig shout out. I was going to start singing it, but then I was like, yeah, we may get copyright struck.
I know. I didn't like. I guess mentioning it, I was going to get in trouble, but
Well, now it's playing in my head. I'm like, but who do you guys think? Well, before I go to that, actually, let me do this first. The opening scene. So every episode seems to open with them achieving, getting another coin. And this one had the cool, but I did like the blood spraying out of the guy's neck. That was pretty crazy. But this one was really cool because there's this like abandoned secret church under the ground, and this, I mean, it was straight out of, if you're into the Souls series or Bloodborne or anything like that, it was this, really cool architecture and this giant upside down crucifix, and the coin was hidden in one of the eyes of Jesus. And it got me thinking. I was like, was this some ancient evil? In other words, is this order existed in the past in a different, a different form, and maybe they fell apart, or who knows? But I had a lot of thoughts with that scene. Like, damn, how far back does this go? And what more? We could shit. You could do a prequel series to this show. That was the kind of thoughts that were running through my mind.
Yeah, because all the coins are spread out now, so that would imply to me that someone who is anti this group was able to get a hold of all the coins, try to make it unobtainable to get all of them.
Unobtainable.
What was the superpower stuff in Avatar? Unobtainium or whatever.
Unobtainium, yeah.
But they're trying to make it to where they couldn't get all of the coins, spreading them out all over the place, putting them in different areas. Whether it was put in that church forever ago or more recently, either way, someone way before this group has reformed was trying to prevent people from getting all these coins. So yeah, Brian, I think, you saying this is cyclic, like it's gone on over and over and over. I think that this is, I don't know which time this would have been. I'm sure it's played out.
That was the thing that was running through my mind. This big ass cathedral, like underground, and I was like, whoa! It was just it was cool imagery, and it was very metal. It was it could be on the cover of a metal album, but
and it's one of those things that I liked about those early episodes of to reference another show, Supernatural, where you had all this, and where you were seeing these things built up, like their enemies, what they were up against, when you were seeing that, showing the demonic forces, and like that all these things exist, and you're like, well, damn, what good is there out there? Like, how are they going to fight this? And that's always an interesting point to be at in a series, because we have a full understanding of, or maybe we don't, we have a pretty decent understanding of what our main characters are up against right now, but we're not seeing a lot of hope there, and that's fine, because it's interesting to see how do they survive this, and how do they get a leg up as underdogs at this point, whereas it seems that everything is working against them. Their enemy is the Pope's right hand, and there's this entire order, though. The preview for next episode shows that we may have an answer to that if Father Manuel is doing what we think he's doing.
Who do you think? So the guy in the storage locker 188, who is he? I was thinking about that. I was like, all right, you could say, okay, maybe he's just a possessed guy. He's a demon of some kind. But clearly, there's something special about him, because he seems to be running shit. He seemed to, whether or not that was really him or just in Manuel's head. We see him around. Is he who Fabio's taking orders from? He's the one that got Fabio to go through the door. So clearly he's very powerful. Yeah, what do you guys think he is? Do you think there's something more to him? Is he, in fact, I don't think he's the devil, but maybe one of his top guys, or what do you think?
Well, you mentioned that he was in, what was it, the courtyard or whatever, and saw the Pope, and it's something like, it's been a long time. So now, does that mean that he knows the Pope, or did that mean that it's been a long time since the devil has seen the Pope? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if it was a religious thing, or if it was referring to, it's been a long time since that person specifically had seen the Pope. I'm not sure.
And he makes the reference to Sandro. He's like, because he's starting an exorcism, and he just sort of like, look, dude, that's a waste of our time. What are you doing? Almost that he's something, that's beyond those those techniques basically.
Well, yeah, but I think what Spencer was talking about was that opening scene where we see him. Was
Yeah,
that
when he goes to the Pope. Yeah, that was him.
so that was the Pope he was talking to.
Yeah, the Pope comes out of the little Pope mobile, and when he walks up, that's the dude that approaches him, and it's just has a conversation as if they know each other, and the look on the Pope's face is like, oh
He looks
shit.
horrified. So he may be in on it then. In that case, okay. So yeah, that says to me that it's more likely that he's in on this and he knows what's going on because that dude is he's possessed and it's one of those things where I don't know I just feel like it'd be hard to hide what he is with a relic, especially if the Pope in this show is legitimate. So it's possible that he's working with this order and you know like we may have a scene where Manuel gets away from them and tries to talk to the Pope again, but it turns out the Pope is was the person behind that door. Essentially, it could well be that could be the person that he was working for, or like you said, vice versa. The Pope could be working for him.
That wouldn't be too far fetched either if they show how strong. I mean, he basically turned into a fucking dragon for a minute, and set old boy on fire. So for him to be able to control somebody probably wouldn't be all that far fetched. So if he actually is controlling the Pope, that would be insane. And then you think about it too. He's pitching it like, "Oh, Fabio's my right hand." It's even more ridiculous to think that the Pope doesn't know what's going on, or if he is just basically taking a back seat to Fabio. And I don't remember the devil's name, but I mean, it's Lucifer's the devil's name, but I don't know this guy's name.
I don't think we ever got his name.
I don't recall. I didn't write it down. I don't recall them ever saying Elena's husband. Well, not really, but whatever the hell that is that came out of the scarecrow. That was a cool effect. Yeah. Not only the scarecrow, but him going in the shower, and I just liked how all that was done with the looked practical. Basically, it was. I guess they caked a bunch of shit on him and said, "Wash it off." But yeah, it was really well done. But we see through the previews for next week that he's being basically puppeted by the witch, and clearly he's sent there for the soul now this intrigues me. Now I guess they think she still has the coin, and maybe that's where all this is going, but the fact that that's my assumption, he's being used to bring Elena back, and clearly it's going to work. Do you think that her husband is alive somewhere else, or is this the guy that Antonio was referring to? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. It was it like foreshadowing, or did that scene happen beforehand, or is, like you said, like right at the very beginning, is the husband still alive and they know he's somewhere, or was that even the husband? That could have been the husband initially, but the witch, transformed him into a fucking scarecrow or whatever. And then brought him back.
Thought. Yeah. I didn't even think of that.
He's been missing for, some time now.
2 years.
He could have had the coin or something, or they thought he had the coin, and the witch tortured him or whatever. Like, it literally could be him, but he could be transformed back from his transformed state. Like, I don't know what to call him as a scarecrow previously.
Scarecrow man. That's
well, yeah, I think it's like like potentially that it's necromancy of some kind, if anything, that his soul may be in there, but he's probably dead. And the reason I think he's dead, since we're talking about previews anyway, is the reaction of the gentleman in the preview whose name I can't remember because he only appeared. Well, he was only the focus in one episode. The one where that's the dude whose daughter was pregnant.
Episodes, right? I think so. Yeah, he freaks out. Yeah, because he's like he's freaking out.
the old witch, brought him back. So my assumption is he either is aware that he's dead or potentially he killed him. That they had a conflict of some kind and he's killed him. And, so that's why he's freaked out. Because that's my question. Why would he be so bothered by this? Because if you assumed someone was dead and they disappeared out of nowhere, yeah, you'd be shocked, but you wouldn't be unnerved the way this man is. Unless you were involved or you saw that person die.
That's a good point. Yeah, because he's freaking out. Well, Mario, I think that's her husband's name. I think he says Mario.
Mario. Mm-hmm. So I think that guy killed her husband.
Or was it Luigi? Sorry. It was Wario.
It was Yoshi.
It was Yoshi.
He didn't make the jump. Off his back.
Let's see here. Yeah, I am very interested to where that's going. So going back to the preview was crazy. That's why we keep bringing it up. It was like, holy shit.
There was so much happening.
Yeah, this is a whole different show. But yeah, it appears that Manuel joined some kind of evil, demonic hell, Harry Hogwarts. And, he's learning magic and, talking about, books of power and all this shit. And he's there learning shit. And there's I'm very excited to see where that's all going. And while that's all going on, we'll also be getting the story in the village with Elena and her weird scarecrow husband. So next week's going to be crazy.
I think it's going to give some explanation as to what their previous relationship was. And maybe, I don't know if this, Larry's saying necromancy, if he has any prior memory of what happened in Mario's life beforehand. Will we find out why he left? Will we find out if he knows about Elena and Paco's relationship, or if that's been a thing and maybe that is why he left? I'm really curious as to what kind of backstory we're going to get from the Scarecrow.
Yeah, because that's the sort of thing. It's like, did he leave of his own accord? Did he actually even leave, or was he just murdered by this guy and he made it look like a disappearance? But we'll, like you said, likely get those answers next episode if that actually is him or if his soul is in there. And even if it's not, we might get it. The witch may know something if Elena's able to use those Sherlock Holmes like detective skills that she's gained, I guess, from years of veterinary school and figure this out.
I've pretty much exhausted my notes, but I want one last thing I want to say, and then if you guys have anything. The actor that plays Manuel is 56 years old, and the dude is ripped. So right? I'm very, very impressed. I hope I'm in that kind of shape at that age.
I will not be. Like my tombstone will say, "Here lies Larry, ate too many cheeseburgers."
Yeah. My cholesterol. I like to eat a lot of food. I just hope that I could still box, 17 rounds and be anybody bigger than me. Like that, it was just impressive because not only was he in great shape, they called him the Hurricane, whatever. He was still a great boxer. And we saw that, throughout the episode when he, tiger punched Carmen up into the air 30 feet.
Oh, because I can tell you the way he's built and even the way he moved, the actor clearly really works out like that in boxes. I would guess. Maybe not people, but at least a bag.
Well, as we know from Iron Fist, that's hard to fake. So I imagine he does. But yeah, definitely, hope to look like that at 56. I kind of doubt it, but that's what I hope for.
Master Roshi.
Hey, if they do a live action one, well, they've messed that up once. Let's, then encourage them to do another.
That's all my notes. Anything else, guys?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think we covered roughly everything.
Yeah. Yeah, love these. I love these episodes. Looking forward to episode number 5. This is going to be one of those shows that's painful whenever it does end. Hopefully they pick it up for a second season. I'd have, obviously I have no idea how this season ends, but whatever happens, hopefully there's more because I'm really enjoying it and I'm, enjoying the characters. So we will see y'all next time. A lot of content on the channel. Check it out and yeah.
Bye.
Bye.